Welcome back to the show. Today I'm broadcasting from this cathedral. This cathedral is called the Ripon Cathedral. Actually, it was originally called the Cathedral Church of St. Peter and Wilfrid, way up in North Yorkshire. Well, I thought I would use this background, this beautiful cathedral, as maybe a word picture about the theme of this episode that I'm calling impossible odds, impossible odds. I think a lot of times you and I look at some of our goals and we look around us and we think, how can we possibly create or build something that is as dramatic as what you see here on this episode? Because we see the enormity of the goal, we see the enormity of the dream, we see the impossibility of the task at hand, whatever that might be, and we think that there's no way that our goal, this thing that we're trying to accomplish, will ever be completed. Well, I'm hoping that what you see behind me will prove that wrong to you if you create an environment where people around you have the same goal and the same vision. So the theme of this episode is, again, impossible odds. One of my favorite authors lived over 100 years ago, and his name is Orison Swett Marden. Orison Swett Marden, M-A-R-D-E-N. He said this, he says, success is not measured by what you accomplish, but by the opposition you have encountered and the courage with which you have maintained the struggle against overwhelming odds. There's some really amazing people out there in the world, probably millions of them, over the centuries, who have accomplished some extraordinary events in their life because they have chosen not to stop when they fall on their face. Let me share another story with you today. As a 9-year-old boy, John O'Leary was burned on 100% of his body and given less than 1% chance of surviving the first night. He endured months in the hospital, years in therapy, and dozens of surgeries, and lost all of his fingers to amputation. Despite the odds, he overcame those challenges and became a college graduate, a business owner, a chaplain, the ambassador for Big Brothers and Sisters, the first inductee into the Energizer Keep Going Hall of Fame, an international speaker, a husband, and a father. The article says, I saw a video of him on YouTube and how the therapist had to stretch his limbs while he was screaming in agony every day. If they didn't do this, he would never walk, to be able to move his arms or anything. Today, John thanks them for the pain. I think you and I both sometimes struggle with being stretched, to being challenged to do something that is not comfortable. I think human nature, most humans want to run from pain. They don't want to hang around people who remind them of pain. They don't want to place themselves in a situation that gives them pain. But if you read about the smartest people that have ever lived, the majority of those people place themselves consistently in situations that stretch them, that pull them, that push them to a situation and or a mode of thought that they haven't thought of before. Let me share another story. Jackie Brown writes in With the Battle of Longawella, where 120 Indian soldiers and a handful of big guns held off 2,800 Pakistani soldiers and 65 tanks. 2 Indians and 200 Pakistanis were killed. The Pakistanis almost lost half of their tanks. They stood up against an overwhelming army. There's story after story after story. If you read these things, to study these people who have done some extraordinary feats in their life, that the majority of them have overcome impossible odds in a dramatic way because they just refused to quit. The 2004 Battle of Fallujah is a good example. A force of 2,000 to 3,000 Marines and soldiers defeated an insurgent force of 40,000 to 50,000 people. The basic infantry things there were very similar to the ones they didn't use, but they decided to hang out together, to work together, to merged their tactical skills with the Marines in such a way that there was no way that the enemy could win, even though they were overpowered by the enemy. I wonder how many times you and I choose to run the other direction. We choose to run away because of the numbers, because of the overwhelming odds that are against you and I at the time. We choose to run away from circumstances and situations because we don't think we even have a chance. Jackie Robinson was the first black person to play Major League Baseball. He broke the color barrier and he faced jeering crowds in every situation. The players would stomp on his feet and kick him. While playing one day in his home stadium in Brooklyn, New York, he made an error. The fans began to ridicule him. He stood at second base humiliated while his fans jeered. Then shortstop Pee Wee Reese came over and stood next to him. He put his arm around Jackie and faced the crowd. The fans grew quiet. Robinson later said that arm on his shoulder saved his career. I'm suggesting to you that I would, and I have, and I do, surround myself with people, either in writing, in video form, or in person, that when I'm struggling with the jeering crowds of making mistakes, that somebody comes alongside me and puts their arm around my shoulder. May I extend that point a little bit farther? What if you looked for opportunities in your life to come alongside people that are struggling in their way, that they've maybe made a boatload of mistakes, and they recognize those mistakes? It's a big difference between those people who are, bluntly put, evil, and they continue to make these choices. I'm not talking about those folks. I'm talking about the people who have fallen on their face. They realize they've fallen on their face. They're now discouraged with the potential of creating something big, but they keep falling on their face and messing up and making mistakes and making errors. Maybe you can walk alongside them and put your arm around them and encourage them, to give them the courage they need to, like in this story, to save their career, to keep going when they don't feel like anybody else gives a thought to them at all. So what's been impossible, in quotes, in your own life? Certainly you've come through some really tough situations in your life that maybe you thought that you couldn't overcome them. There's been times many times in my life, hundreds of times in my life, that I wanted to throw in the towel, that I wanted to quit. And then at that moment, I remind myself that there are some people depending on me. And the more we get these programs out and the other things that we do to encourage and inspire other people, those numbers are growing consistently. So now, if I don't do it for me, I have to do it for them. I choose to do it for them every hour of every day. So what I'm saying in that example is maybe you need to create a why, or build yourself a why, W-H-Y, a why around you that's bigger than the challenges that you're going through at the time, to be able to pull you through some of the challenges that you're going through at that moment. So when you look at people in your own life, you say, John, how can I possibly overcome some of these struggles in my life? What I'm saying to you is that it's important that you might want to consider other people that have gone through far worse times than you have. Go.
Is it on? Hi, my name is Joanna Carver, and I've been through some stuff, and I don't really know some people out there, but you may have it. So if you're having a hard time, you can get through it. Because if I can get through it, then you can. And you know you can.
Did you ever consider yourself maybe a hero to somebody else, to maybe that they're going to look back in 5 or 10 years and say, you know what, if you would not have done what you did on that day or that period of time in my life, where you stood around me and put your arm around me and encouraged me to keep going, I wouldn't be where I am today. I would suggest to you that a huge majority of people that have accomplished anything great in life have had people like the baseball player Pee Wee Reese back many, many years ago, that had people around them that sometimes they picked them up and carried them forward. I'm asking you today to consider the people in your life, that you have to be extremely proactive with people in your life, and to be even more descriptive, to create people, to surround yourself with people that are creative, Imagine if you wanted to build a cathedral like this, you just wouldn't go picking haphazardly people in your town to create these beautiful structures. No, you would probably want to pick the best of the best. People that are skilled in what it took to build this beautiful place. Well, isn't that kind of like a metaphor for life? Why would you and I choose to allow people in our circle, in our life, that really are, I'm going to try to be polite, they don't care about their own lives, let alone about your life? Why would you choose to do that when you have goals and dreams in your life that are pretty important to you? To me, that makes no sense at all. Darius Maslow tells two stories. He writes, "Have you ever heard of the name Wilma Rudolph? For many people, this name may not mean a whole lot depending on your age. She is best known for winning 3 gold medals in the Olympics. In the 1960 Olympics, she won these 3 gold medals in track and field, while setting the world record in 1961 for the women's 100-meter dash. What everyone doesn't know about Wilma is that when she was born, doctors told her mother that she would never, ever walk. When Wilma was a young girl, she would hear conversations between her mother and the doctors, but her mother never let her believe what the doctor said. Her mother always told her that she would walk and that she just had to keep trying. The rest of the story is literally history." She ignored what the doctors said, the experts said that she could not walk, but she proved them wrong. What I'm suggesting to you in that story is maybe you need to prove some people wrong about their negative opinions of you. I would say that probably I'm not the only one that has had some pretty negative opinions said or felt about them. I was bullied in school horribly. I got in fights from time to time because people thought I was a certain way, or they viewed me in a certain light, and they thought I was weak, and I had a horrible stutter back then, and I didn't fit in any way, shape, or form when I was in school. So the bullies came by and they let me know that I didn't belong there. But I chose to, over time, not at that time because I didn't know any of this stuff existed, as far as mentors and surrounding myself with good people and all that. I was a kid, I didn't know any better. But the older I got, I realized that I don't have to listen to the opinions of the people who don't see the value in me. And maybe this is for you too. Maybe you have listened for a long time to people that don't see the value in you, that can't even imagine that you and a team of very good people could build a life that is extraordinary. Maybe you need to divorce yourself from those kinds of people that keep planting seeds of doubts and negativity in your ears. I'm telling you, if and when you choose to do this, it will radically excel your life in a direction that, looking back, you can't believe how far you've come. Because these people, these negative people, these unskilled people, if you will, that have no clue about anything, they don't know that they don't know, are literally dragging you down. You have a choice to separate yourself from these people and surround yourself with some amazing talent, whether it's in book form, whether it's audio. I mean, I've had hundreds of audio books in my library at home, whereby for 20 years, I would listen to this material every single day because I was on the road a lot. So I maximized all my time in the car listening to material and experts and really, really smart people to help me learn a lot faster than not. I have a library of, my peak, I had over 300 books in my library at home. Why? Because I know that I don't know certain things. So I'm going to learn from the people who know things, then stand on their shoulders to grow and learn and to be able to create a life that's extraordinary. You should do the same thing. Learn from people who know, whereby then you can then leverage their wisdom, you can leverage their knowledge in a way that can really save you decades of your own life. Zig Ziglar tells a story about one of his friends having a child that was diagnosed and born with cerebral palsy. All the doctors This couple took their child who told them that he would never walk or talk. The couple did not accept this answer and was not willing to accept there was no solution for this child. But there was a doctor in Chicago who was known as the world's foremost authority on cerebral palsy that they were able to get an appointment with. The doctor was the 31st doctor the couple had seen about their child. The 31st, okay? With the help of the doctor, they were able to get their child to live a normal life. Today, the child's grown, married, healthy, and a successful business person. Why? Because the parents were tenacious to find an answer. I'm asking you today, are you going to accept the impossible odds of the average and ordinary people around you? Or are you going to consistently try to find a person or people or knowledge in your own life that will give you the tools you need to create something that's extraordinary in your own life? Oprah Winfrey shares a story. Kanye West's debut album, College Dropout, catapulted him from Chicago's hip-hop producer to a multi-platinum artist with 10 Grammy nods and 3 wins. But what fans may not know is Kanye made his wildest dreams come true after surviving a near-fatal nightmare. In 2002, on his way home from a late-night recording session, Kanye fell asleep at the wheel of his car and crashed head-on into an SUV. His face was crushed by the steering wheel and his jaw broken in 3 places. Using music as his medicine, he began writing songs inspired by that ordeal. He recorded the smash hit, I guess pun intended, Through the Wire while his jaw was still wired shut. Kanye's brush with death became his defining moment. Again, Kanye's brush with death became his defining moment. He said, when I had my accident, I found out that moment, nothing in life is promised except death. If you have the opportunity to play this game of life, you need to appreciate every moment. I'm living a dream. If you're in a dream and things are going bad, you mentally can change that and adjust your dream. So I live this life like a dream and I speak it into fruition, he writes. You're no different than these people. None at all. They've gone through some really, really tough times. How much fight do you and I have in our hearts, in our minds, to keep pushing regardless of how you feel? To be very transparent, I deal with that every hour of every day. How much fight do I have left in me to push past how I feel? Think about that for just a second or two in your own life. How much fight do you have in your own life to keep pushing regardless how you feel? You can be an overcomer also. You have to have an attitude of no matter what happens, I'm going to take the bull by the horns and do what I need to do. Arnold Palmer said, I've always made a total effort, and even when the odds seemed entirely against me, I never quit trying. I never felt I didn't have a chance to win. So what's this impossible odds thing? Some people would call it resiliency. It's bouncing back from frustrations and to recover from setbacks. It's adapting to change and problems and struggles. But in order to do this, you and I'm talking to me too today, I guarantee you, that we have to face the frustration and the disappointment of the moment and keep pushing in the middle of the moment. And keep pushing in the middle of the moment is some of the most difficult times you can imagine. Because you and I sometimes, we really don't want to keep pushing forward. We just want to keep pushing. We just want to give up. We want to throw in the towel. We want to say, I can't do this anymore. So some of the characteristics of people that have been resilient, that they want this sense of independence. They have to separate themselves from people who are not resilient. I had to learn that the hard way. I had to learn it. I had to really hurt people's feelings in a certain way because I couldn't afford to hang around certain people. I can't afford to hang around whiners. I can't afford to hang around complainers. You know why? Because just this is how I'm wired. I'll be, again, totally transparent here today on this episode at least, that if I hang around whiners and complainers, I find myself within a very short amount of time starting to complain and starting to whine. It's just how I'm wired. Maybe that's not how you're wired. That's how I'm wired. So if I want to not become a complainer and a whiner, then I have to not surround myself or be around complainers and whiners. That took me a long time to understand how important it is to surround myself with people who are resilient, who keep bouncing back after every failing attempt, that they understand that that failing attempt doesn't make them a failure. There's a big difference between failing and being a failure. Building relationships means finding connections with people who have, A, paid the price of their success, whatever that looks like, and also they have found ways to overcome some of the biggest challenges in their life because they've stood on the shoulders of giants that have created amazing things in their lives where they can look back and say, you know what, if this person can do this or these people can do that, then I can accomplish something maybe not as grand, maybe, or maybe bigger, but certainly I can accomplish some things that are pretty extraordinary in my life. People that are resilient have initiative. They take control of a problem and try to solve it. What has worked for me and hundreds of other people, maybe thousands of other people, is they write a to-do list of things that they need to do the following day, the night before. Let me say it again. They write a to-do list of the things that they need to do for the following day, the night before. And for me, I tend to do the things that I don't want to do first because, again, how I'm wired is I tend to want to put things off, the stuff that I don't want to do. So I get that done first. So then the rest of the day is a whole lot easier because I've gotten done the stuff that I really don't really want to do. So when you think about people that have faced impossible odds, as Eleanor Roosevelt said one time, she said, do one thing every day that scares you. Do just one thing every day that scares you. Because when you and I choose to do the things that scare us, get this, then there's going to come a time when what used to scare us doesn't scare us anymore. Because you've looked at that bully in the face, that fear bully, that intimidation, that feeling of incompetence, that attitude of I'm not good enough, and realize that you have gone through so many things in your life. You've created some masterpieces, if you will, in your own life, and you realize that, you know what, there's nothing that I can't do. There's nothing that I can't accomplish if I'm focused and if I'm consistent and if I surround myself with people that are extraordinary. And I have to tell you, some of the people that you can choose to surround yourself with that are extraordinary may not even have a college degree, but they have decades of experiences that you can learn from and leverage the lessons that they've gone through in their lives to save you years and years of blood and sweat and tears to overcome and to do things that are beyond your own comprehension. So fear has a way of stopping us in our tracks and viewing stuff as being impossible. I'm telling you, I've dealt with that so many times in my life, especially when I was younger, way younger, 20 years ago or more, where I looked at certain things in my life, in my own head, in my own history. It's like, I can't do this because. Well, I manufactured the because reasons. You give yourself reasons why you can't do stuff. Why don't you flip that around and start giving yourself reasons why you can do stuff, and more importantly, why you should do stuff? Why not write down a list of reasons why you must do what seems to be impossible today? And then start taking those steps consistently every day in order for you to accomplish something that is dramatically beautiful that no one else in your family has ever done. Because you've chosen to take the lessons in these episodes and other books and people that are much smarter than I am and learn from them and start putting into practice every single day habits, consistent habits that can change your life in a dramatic way, where anything that comes down your road will not be viewed as impossible, but possible. Take some of the things I've shared in this episode here today and change your life in such a dramatic and beautiful way that hundreds of years from now, people can look back at your life and say, this person paid the price consistently. And imagine if they hadn't paid the price. You want to be part of history and not just somebody that's going to forget about you 6 months after you're gone. And that's kind of crazy. But you know what? You can do it. I'm trying to do it. There's hundreds of people around you that are trying to do it every day. Make a difference. Nothing is impossible. My name's John Carver. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back real soon.